It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Broadcasting from coast to coast,
city to city, coast to coast.
It's time for the Ryan Hickey Show on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. If it's happening in sports, it's being talked about right here. And here's your host, Ryan Hickey.
Good Thursday morning. Welcome in to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It is the Ryan Hickey Show with you for the next 2 hours. Going until 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. If you're waking up with us right now on the beautiful, gorgeous left coast, we appreciate you tuning in and starting your Thursday morning with us right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. For the next 2 hours, we hopefully get you a little bit closer to the weekend, make that Thursday a little bit more enjoyable. As a reminder, we're coming to you live, as we always are, from the Big Italy Pizzeria Studios. Whether it's great pizza, hot heroes, and phenomenal dinners, check out Big Italy Pizzeria in person in Medford, Joe's Pizzeria in Bayshore, online anywhere at BigItalyPizza.com. My apologies for the technical difficulties to start the show. I'm not sure why all of a sudden the stream stopped out of nowhere, but we think we got it working again, at least on Twitter. So if there was a little glitch there, it wasn't you, it was on our end somehow, but we think we fixed it. We are ready to go here. Hopefully, technical glitch free for the next 2 hours. A lot to get into. NBA play-in tournament, genius idea, at least in my mind. Urban Meyer, should we have concerns? There is a lot to get to here, I should say, within the next 2 hours before we get out of here at 11 a.m. Eastern. But I do want to start with the NFL, with, personally, at least in my mind, an event that maybe is the most overrated event on the NFL calendar, and that is the NFL schedule release. Now, we didn't find out the opponents that your favorite team is playing. We already knew those. We didn't find out which home games your favorite team has or which road trips your favorite team is making because, again, we know all those. But now at least we have the answers to when and what time these games will be played at, because last night every single NFL team revealed their now 17-game NFL schedule with dates and times. We have the Thursday night lineup, the Sunday night lineup, the Monday night lineup, as well as obviously the holiday games as well. So we have a good amount of answers. We do now at least can actually put, dates and times to these big-time games. We know, for example, when Tom Brady's going back to New England. We know when some of the big-time games are getting played throughout the schedule. And boy, do we have a lot of good games here. But I'm not going to break down the schedule. I'm not going to give you my favorite primetime games or my least favorite primetime games or some games that maybe are off the beaten path that are really a lot better than we expected. But I do kind of want to look at the schedule release from this perspective. Because also, now that we know the times, we know which teams are in prime time, which teams are in prime time often, and which teams maybe got the short end of the stick there that maybe should be on our screens on Sunday night and Monday night more than they actually are. Because at least for me, when you look at the pure numbers of who's in prime time, who's not, there are 3 teams in my mind that are on prime time way too much. Don't want to see them, don't need to see them, don't have any desire to watch them 3, 4, 5 times. Because that's the max. Team can be in prime time Thursday, Sunday, Monday, a max of 5 times this season. So which teams are featured too much? And on the converse, 3 teams that, to me, I want to see more of. I don't want them buried in the 1 o'clock schedule when there's 7 or 8 games going on. There's chaos everywhere. If you're watching the red zone, there's 4 different games going on at the same time. It's hard to kind of focus in on one team or two. I would love to see 3 teams featured more on the big stage, featured more to be the standalone game. So we'll do that second. I want to start with the 3 teams, at least in my mind, that are featured too much, that are on the schedule, the schedule makers love, they are putting them in prime time, and as a neutral observer, as a football fan, do I want to see this team on Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night? No. First team in my mind, the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings, think about this, or get this. They have 4 primetime games. 4. So I'll ask the NFL, I'll ask you, what is the appeal to wanting to see the Vikings 4 times in primetime? Am I missing something? Do they all of a sudden go out and get Aaron Rodgers without me realizing? Do they get Russell Wilson? Do they maybe have Sean McVay become their head coach? Do they get the 85 Bears defense? Like, someone's got to explain to me what the appeal here for the Minnesota Vikings being on primetime 4 times. And remember, the max is 5. So they are right there in terms of being on your television screen in primetime the most possible. Close to it, right there with 4. But when I look at the Vikings heading into 2021, I mean, they are a borderline team for me at best. At best. Like they're right now. Assuming Aaron Rodgers, if we go with the precipice and we go with the assumption that he is going to be on the Packers come week 1, the Vikings right now, their best shot for the division this year is fighting with the Bears to get second place. Like, Kirk Cousins, as we know, in prime time, isn't a good quarterback. Doesn't put up big-time performances. They have Justin Jefferson, I like him. Obviously, Dalvin Cook is a very good running back. But what are the Vikings bringing to the table where they are must-watch TV now, where you're running to your TV, or as Carrie Under would say, you're waiting all day for Sunday night? I am not. That is for sure. Vikings to me are head-scratching, having 4 primetime games. I could do without that. Speaking of the NFC North, we'll just hit on a team we just mentioned. The Chicago Bears, also with 4 games. Now, there's a caveat with the Bears. I will say this. Justin Fields could change his answer depending on when he does come to be the starter. But you look at the Bears' schedule, Sunday night to start the season right off the bat at the Rams. First game of the year, week 1, Sunday Night Football, Bears-Rams. They have another primetime game in week number 9. So 2 primetime games the first 9 weeks, or basically the first half of the season. If Justin Fields isn't starting in either of those games, I'm sorry, the Bears are not watchable television. Because I don't really see the difference between the Bears with Andy Dalton at quarterback in 2021 and the Bears with either Mitch Trubisky or Nick Foles at quarterback in 2020. I don't see much difference. And let's not forget, this Bears offense in 2020 stunk. Putrid. Tough to watch. And guess what? NFL was in not big trouble, but they got screwed almost in the fact that they put the Bears on a ton of primetime games last year, and they were unwatchable. They were unwatchable. I'm sorry. Their offense is so bad. They don't give you any sort of hope. There's no sexiness. There's nothing you can watch with the Bears that really kind of brings your eyes to the television screen when it comes to them playing in big-time primetime games. The offensive line was bad. Their quarterback stunk. The running game wasn't great. The receivers outside of Allen Robinson are eh. So the NFL is going to need Justin Fields to not only come in earlier, maybe even start week 1, they're going to need Justin Fields to kind of, hit the ground running here. Burst out of the gate. Because if not, if he struggles, or if he struggles enough to where Andy Dalton keeps a job for the first 9-10 weeks of the season, I'm sorry, the Bears are not watchable television. That is a game I will not be looking forward to. And I think we will see a repeat or similar, maybe a slight improvement, but close to a repeat of what 2020 was. And that was not fun, not watchable, not enjoyable. So the Bears having 4 primetime games. Again, this is all dependent on Justin Fields and how he plays. But if Andy Dalton is starting half of these games, man, we the fans get hurt by that. We the fans do. So the Vikings with 4, Bears with 4, to me, 2 teams that are featured too much on primetime. The third and final team I think is featured too much, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now I get it. I understand they are a national brand. Right? They are one of the few model franchises that have a national fan base. Anytime the Steelers are playing in a game, I get people watch. But let's also look at their team in 2021. Take away the Steeler name. Look at the roster. This team is not going to be very exciting in 2021. Big Ben, well, again, I thought it was the right move because you look at the other options. They didn't have any other options, so I thought it was fine. You bring Big Ben back one more year. No problem with it. But with that said, I mean, this guy's hanging on by a thread. I don't see him improving much from 2020. And the second half of 2020 was tough to watch. The offensive line still stinks, which means the running game, even though they drafted Najee Harris, to me, is still going to struggle because drafting a running back isn't the answer to fixing the running game. The offensive line is, and the Steelers didn't address that. The receivers don't really excite you. Sure, Juju Smith-Schuster, maybe we'll get another TikTok on another logo and we'll get some drama there before the game. But Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool, okay. Nothing great there. Defense still should be pretty good. But I'll ask you this question. The last 6 games of the year, we'll start really with the Ravens game. If you remember that Thanksgiving game that was moved almost a week later on I believe it was a Wednesday afternoon. If we start for that Ravens game, when the Steelers were still undefeated, mind you, finished through the rest of the season, those last 6 games or so, were the Steelers exciting to watch? Were they a team that was fun, enjoyable, put up a lot of points? Their games were exciting? No. No, they were not. And to me, personally, the Steelers bringing back a lot of that squad from 2020, I don't think, or I do think I should say that we'll see a lot of those last 6 weeks of the Steelers more in 2021. That's what I do think we'll see. And that's not an offense, that's not a team that really gets you excited to watch. So the Steelers, the Bears, the Vikings, 3 teams in my mind, way too much prime time. Way too much prime time, knock down a game or two to let other teams get that we actually do want to see on the schedule, on the slate. 3 teams that I think aren't featured enough, that should have more primetime games, that don't. The Browns. The Browns have 3 primetime games. And I'll be honest, this is kind of ridiculous. I look at the Browns heading to 2021 as one of the most intriguing, one of the most exciting, and frankly, one of the best teams in the NFL. And that's me also believing this team will take a big step in year number 2 under Kevin Stefanski. I'm very excited to see how Baker Mayfield plays. He really, especially towards the end of the season, started coming to his own, started looking comfortable in the offense. I think now for the first time in his career, having the same head coach, having the same offense, the same terminology, essentially the same players, going from one year to another, will benefit him immensely. So I'm excited to see Baker take that next step in 2021. They have Odell Beckham Jr., they have Jarvis Landry, they have Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. They have great talent offensively and defensively. They are a very deep team. They are one of the most well-rounded teams in the NFL. So I have a lot of interest in watching the Browns. I want to see them play in primetime more often. 3 games to me, not enough. When you look at the Steelers having 5, the Bears and the Vikings having 4, and you give the Browns 3, give the Browns more primetime games. That's a team that not only do I want to see personally, I think America wants to see. That, to me, is a team with national interest in the Browns. 3 primetime games, in my mind, not enough. A team that's on the rise that I think should be getting more love than they are, the Los Angeles Chargers. They also have 3 with the Browns. This is a team I am very interested in, very intrigued in. You have Justin Herbert coming off the Rookie of the Year award. We'll see, can he take a next step in year number 2? The offensive line, really the biggest weakness of the Chargers outside of the coaching staff, has improved. They still have tons of weapons there. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. You have Joey Bosa on the defensive end. Derwin James coming back to anchor that defense in the secondary. There is talent here. To me, there is intrigue to where the Chargers are a fun upstart team. I kind of view the Chargers like I did the Browns in 2020. Interesting, good group of talent. Can they put it together? I think this is the Chargers team that, could border on double-digit wins. I'm feeling good about the Chargers heading to 2021. I like Brandon Staley, the new head coach. This is a Chargers team that I do want to see more of. I am interested and I would like to see more of. Again, they have, to me, just 3 primetime games. I think they should have more. And finally, I might be on an island on this one. I'll say more in on this team than I kind of thought I would be. And that's the Dolphins. They have just 2 primetime games. To me, Tua Tagovailoa and how he progresses, how he develops, how he plays. And really the first year he'll be the full-time starter. To me, it's a big storyline. And not just for me, but I think nationally as well. I think there was some sort of debate before the Dolphins traded out number 3. Would the Dolphins take a quarterback? Should they take Justin Fields or Trey Lance or Mac Jones or Zach Wilson if he falls? There was a conversation. People were debating it. I like the move that the Dolphins made in kind of bolstering and backing their guy. They got Jalen Waddle in the draft. They signed Will Fuller in free agency. They're adding talent to this offense that did not have really much to any talent on the offense last year. And with that said, they still won 10 games. I think Brian Flores is a very good coach. I like the way this team is building in the right direction. They have a great culture. And the team is better on paper this year than last year. And again, they won 10 games. I think they could do that again. 10, 11 wins. So that's a team that I want to see more of. I want to see how Tua plays. I like Brian Flores as the head coach. To me, this is the Dolphins team that I think should be in primetime more than just twice. So when you look at least in my mind, in my opinion, the three teams that aren't featured enough, the Browns and Chargers, each with 3 games. The Dolphins have 2. So love to hear your thoughts. The schedule is released. The NFL schedule is out there. We know every Thursday night game, Sunday night game, Monday night game, Thanksgiving games, Christmas games, Week 1 games. We have it all. I'm curious, is there a team in your mind that is featured too much on primetime? Is there a team you don't really want to be seeing as much as we will be seeing them in 2021? And conversely, is there a team that's not featured enough? Is there a team that got the short end of the stick in your mind to where, hey, they deserve to be on the national stage a lot more than they are. This is going to be a fun, interesting, exciting team. And the NFL is not giving them the opportunity to kind of flourish and show that off. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Facebook, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Twitter, you can tweet us, WWSRN_radio, WWSRN_radio. Tweet me directly if you want, at Ryan Hickey Show. Nice and easy, nice and simple. So comment on Facebook, comment on Twitter. We'll get your thoughts. Which teams are featured too much in primetime? Which teams aren't featured enough in primetime? We'll get your thoughts. And when we come back, we'll transition from the NFL to the NBA. Boy, was I wrong about the NBA playing tournament. I'll tell you why. It is genius. One of the best moves Adam Silver has ever done. When the Ryan Hickey Show returns right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Welcome back to the Ryan Hickey Show, right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
And welcome back into the Ryan Hickey Show with you right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, here until 11 a.m. Eastern. I want to issue a mea culpa, an apology to Adam Silver. Now, as you know, if you listen to the show with any sort of regularity, even if not, you listen once in a blue moon, very easy to pick up. I am wrong about a lot of things. A lot of things. Predictions, thoughts, what's going to happen, what's not going to happen. I usually get a lot of things wrong. And I will admit, here we go, yet again. I am wrong about something else, and this time it comes in the NBA. This time it has something to do with the playing tournament. When the playing tournament was announced for this season specifically, did not really understand it, didn't really think it was a good idea. Honestly, I wasn't enthralled with it, didn't care about it. Oh, who cares about, the Wizards and the Pacers fighting for the 8th seed so they can have the right to play, in this case, most likely the Sixers. Like, they're going to get blown out. We're going to have, most likely, the Grizzlies, Spurs in the Western Conference, 9-10. Like, are people going to get juiced? People going to get excited for that? And that's how I view the playing tournament. I totally missed the main point of the playing tournament, and that's where I apologize for Adam Silver. Because the playing tournament, now that we're here, now that we are less than a week away from it, it is one of the best things Adam Silver and the NBA has ever done in recent memory. It is genius, and here's why. Again, I was wrong, so I looked at it from the premise of 9, 10, 11 seeds battling to make the playoffs, bad teams under 500 looking to get in. And then, as we know, most of those teams get blown out. Maybe they'll win a game in the first round, but they will exit quickly in either 4 or 5 games. So I was thinking, okay, who cares? Like, why am I going to care about a team that's going to get eliminated very quickly? I missed the actual main point of the playing tournament. It's not about the 8th seed and the 9th seed and the 10th seed and keeping teams at 11, 12 interested. The playing tournament has made the regular season relevant. And not just for the teams at 7, 8, 9, 10. It has made the regular season relevant for teams seeded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It has made the regular season relevant for basically 90% of the NBA. And it's honestly something that I didn't realize, I didn't recognize, it didn't hit me until really about 2 weeks ago when you actually see things coming down to the wire, you see the races developing, and you realize, holy cow. Like, there is no time off. There is no time to coast into the playoffs. There's no time to rest players the last week, 10 days, 2 weeks of the season, make sure they're healthy for the playoffs. The play-in tournament has given literally every team a reason to play and play hard through the season. Because almost every team is fighting for something. I give Adam Silver a lot of credit for that. Let's look, right? In the Eastern Conference, right now as you sit here today, on May 13th, with the season ending in 4 days. Sunday the 16th. That's it. So we are on Thursday. The season ends on Sunday. How often are we sitting here 3 days before the season ends breaking down regular season games? We're not, because guess what? Teams most likely have everything locked up. There's no real battles. There's no real reason for intrigue. When you look at the Eastern Conference right now, all 10 teams are battling for seeding. Look, at the top, right? Even though the Nets, Bucks, and Sixers aren't going to be in the play-in tournament, they are still playing and playing hard because they are battling for seeding. Sixers haven't clinched the 1 seed. Bucks and Nets jockeying for home court advantage if they get the 2 or the 3 in the second round. You try to get the best matchup coming out of the play-in tournament in the first round. So the 3 best teams in the East are still playing for something here with just 2 or 3 days left in the season. You have, at 4, 5, 6, the Knicks, Hawks, and Heat fighting to the very end to get to jockey for seeding, right? Where right now, obviously the 4 or 5 is where you want to be. You want to, if you're one of these 3 teams, avoid the 6 and playing either the Bucks or the Nets in the first round. So you have the Knicks playing hard, even though they just clinched a playoff spot last night. You have the Hawks, even though they clinched a playoff spot last night, still playing very hard. And same thing with the Heat. But even though you're in the playoffs, the seeding is so important. You got to still play your guys and play every game like it means, or like it's your last, like it's very meaningful, because it is. That 4 spot is so important. Get home court in the first round. Set yourself up for a favorable matchup to at least give yourself a shot to win a series. So Sixers, Nets, Bucks, still playing hard, still starting to play for. Knicks, Hawks, Heat, still starting to play for. And even the teams in the play-in, Celtics, Hornets, Pacers, Wizards, fighting for positioning, because guess what? Even though they're in the play-in tournament, the 7 and the 8 seed have the advantage because they basically get a do-over, right? If you're the 7 or the 8 right now, you get guaranteed 2 games. Winner, boom, you're in the playoffs. The loser still has a chance to play the winner of the 9-10 game to keep their postseason hopes alive. So there is an incentive, even if you're the 7 or the 8, to keep on playing hard to avoid slipping down to 9. Try to get home court in the play-in game initially. So you give all 10 teams right now that are in the postseason a reason to finish out the season strong. When you're in the Western Conference, you look at the West, I'll say 8 out of the 10 teams really are scrapping until the final game to play hard. You look at the top right now, Jazz and the Suns battling for the 1 seed. Not only are they battling for the 1 seed this year, they're fighting for the right to basically avoid the Lakers in round 1. If the Lakers are able to, or if the Lakers make the play-in tournament, which I would say likely that right now, more likely than not, that they're in the play-in tournament. There's a chance they escape it, but let's say they're in and they win that game, they're the 7 seed. If you're the Jazz, if you're the Suns, you have great seasons. Do you really, in the first round, as a 2-7, want to be taking on LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and the Lakers? I don't. So that battle for the 1 seed is heated because it means so much. You have the Blazers, Mavericks, Lakers battling like crazy to avoid the play-in tournament, where now every Lakers game is must watch because it means so much. Same with the Mavericks, same with the Blazers, where these 3 are jockeying within a game of each other to see who will avoid the play-in tournament. You have the Warriors, Grizzlies, Spurs fighting for which seed they're going to be, who they're going to play. Right now, the Warriors and Grizzlies, the Warriors have the tiebreaker, but right now they're dead even in the standings. So that's the difference, again, between the 8 seed and the 9 seed. You're the 8 seed, sure, you play the Lakers, tough matchup, but you have a little bit of runway, so where if you lose that game, you still have one more opportunity to still make the playoffs, because again, the loser of the 7-8 game still gets to play the winner of the 9-10. So the loser of 9-10, you're out. One game and done. You lose as a 7 seed, you lose as an 8 seed. You still have one more game to still try to make the playoffs. So you have at least a small runway, a little bit of leeway, if you will, to still make the playoffs if you lose one game. So really the only 2 teams I would say right now that could probably and will probably coast, that are kind of basically set in their standings, I would say the Nuggets and the Clippers. I think the Clippers are going to be locked in at 3, Nuggets at 4. So you have, out of the 20 teams to be playing, if you will, postseason basketball, even though the playing tournament technically doesn't count as the playoffs, 18 of the 20 teams are still having reasons to play hard to finish out the regular season strong for standings, to avoid the play-in tournament for one way or another. That is what the play-in tournament is truly about, which it took me a long time to recognize, and that's where I totally missed the mark. For about 4 months of the season, really, until, like I said, the last 2 weeks, it took me to recognize when you see all these races playing out. Whereas an Knicks fan myself, you see every game and the importance, even though the fact that they clinched now a playoff spot, they're not going to be in the play-in tournament, they're going to be in the playoffs. These last 2 games are still very important for the Knicks to get the best seeding possible. Same with the Hawks, same with the Heat. The Sixers, you want that 1 seed. You want home court advantage, and you want to avoid playing either the Nets or the Bucks in round 2. But the way the East is right now, those 3 teams, whoever the 1 seed is, has a major advantage, not only for home court, but you get an easier opponent. You can get either the Knicks, the Hawks, or the Heat in round 2. Would you rather have one of those teams as your opponent, or would you rather have a second-round matchup against the Nets or the Bucks? So there is reasons to play for almost every single team fighting for postseason berths and positioning in the NBA, which is something we don't really say. The biggest knock about the NBA is always what? The regular season doesn't matter. Not a lot of people get into it. A lot of people roll their eyes with the regular season and quote-unquote important games in February and March and April until the playoffs actually come around. That is truly when people actually get into the games, actually feel the intensity of a lot of these games, and actually take the results seriously. But now, the play-in tournament has made the regular season, relevant. No team really, for the most part, can cruise into the playoffs. We're not seeing the Clippers sit 5 guys a night now for the next week until they get to the playoffs. No team is really on cruise control. Teams are essentially discouraged from resting players because now, it's a sprint to the finish. So the NBA and Adam Silver, with this play-in tournament, especially with the way the standings have come about this year alone, especially, they have solved their biggest issue, especially down the stretch of the season, the last month or so. They've made the regular season relevant again. These regular season games are important again. They are must-watch now where baseball is back, hockey playoffs starting. The NBA, even though they're in the regular season, is still important. Still, people have a reason to watch, and that is what the NBA was missing, and that is what they have with this play-in tournament. So I give Adam Silver a ton of credit. It took me a while to recognize it, but this is genius, and I was against it. I thought this should be a one-and-done sort of thing. I have changed my tune. I have done a massive 180. Keep the play-in tournament going forward. I understand LeBron James hates it. Luka Doncic hates it. A ton of players hate the play-in tournament. If you're the 7th seed traditionally, obviously you don't have to worry about, one game and in. Or losing 1 or 2 games and you're out of the playoffs completely, when in other years, you're in the playoffs. I understand if you're the Lakers, the thought of playing Steph Curry in a 1-game elimination is scary. I get it. But for the fans, for the intrigue of the regular season, which has waned, which has struggled to really maintain its importance, the play-in tournament has brought that back. And that is why this is so genius, and that is why I'm a huge fan now of the play-in tournament. It took me a while to realize it. But now that we're here, now that you're seeing these races the last 2-3 weeks of the season play out, fun as hell. As an Knicks fan, watching the Clippers game on Sunday, watching the Lakers game they played the other night on Tuesday night, these games have playoff intensity because they mean so much for both teams. So we are seeing high-level teams duke it out, play hard, because they mean something for both sides. That is the biggest win for the NBA. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Facebook Worldwide Sports Radio Network, Twitter, WWSRN_radio, at Ryan Hickey Show on Twitter as well. Do you like the play-in tournament? Are you a fan of it? Do you like that now the regular season has meaning again, Or do you prefer the traditional model, 1 through 8, no play-in tournament? If you're the 8 seed, you're in. If you're the 9 seed, you're out. There's no hope for you getting in. This is one of the best things Adam Silver and the NBA has done to me. It's made the regular season relevant again, which is why it is a great, great idea. So get your thoughts when we do come back. Speaking of the playoffs, the Lakers and the Nets were a very popular finals pick for most of the year. And I think even now, you see the steam, especially for the Lakers, starting to come back. The fans, the media, starting to get back on board the Lakers and the Nets train as we enter the postseason. Well, they have something, obviously, a lot of the NBA doesn't have. But there's also a lot of these playoff teams have something both the Lakers and Nets don't have. It's continuity versus star power. Who has the advantage in this postseason? We will discuss when the Ryan Hickey Show does return right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Welcome back to the Ryan Hickey Show, right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Black Jesus.
And welcome back into the Ryan Hickey Show with you right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. If you're just tuning in, we appreciate you on this Thursday morning. We're here every Monday, every Thursday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. We're listening on Facebook at Worldwide Sports Radio Network, Twitter, WWSRN_radio, worldwidesportsradio.com. Listening to us on YouTube, Worldwide Sports Radio, or listening through our app, WWSRN. If you have an iPhone, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. If you have an Android, we appreciate you listening wherever you are. And we hopefully at least making your little Thursday morning a little bit brighter, a little bit better. So we're talking NBA. To me, the play-in tournament that was instituted this year, obviously it was there last year. It was a little different last year in the bubble, but this year is the first regular season, real regular season we've seen with the play-in tournament implemented. Genius. Makes the regular season important again. It makes all these games, as we are fighting the last 2, 3, 4 days of the season, making these games must watch, must win for almost every single team fighting for playoff berths, fighting for playoff seeding. So now as we are, really wrapping up and winding down the regular season, starting to look ahead slightly to the postseason. The Lakers and the Nets obviously are two very polarizing teams this year. Coming in, I think everyone, including yours truly here, was picking the Lakers to repeat. I thought their team, especially their bench, got even better this year than it was last year. Obviously, you still have LeBron and AD there. And you saw what the Nets built early on in the season. They had Kyrie, had KD coming back to play together for the first time in Brooklyn. They acquired James Harden in a trade. So star power-wise, the Nets have the most. Right? There's no better trio. There's no more of just pure talent in the NBA on one team than the Nets have there in Brooklyn. When you look at duos, because outside of Brooklyn, every other team really has a big duo, a dynamic duo, a 1-2 punch, if you will. Well, you make the argument pretty easily. I don't think really any other team in the NBA has a better 1-2 punch than LeBron James and Anthony Davis. So the Lakers and the Nets have really one thing that no other team in the NBA has, and that's just overwhelming talent. Whether it's from a duo perspective, whether that's from a team trio perspective, if you will, the Lakers and the Nets, two most talented teams, in my mind, in the NBA heading to the postseason. But when you look at their competitors, when you look at the teams trying to take down the Nets in the Eastern Conference, like the Sixers and the Bucks, when you look at the teams trying to get their revenge on the Lakers and dethrone the champs, for example, the Clippers, the Jazz, those teams have something that both the Lakers and the Nets don't have. That's continuity. That's familiarity. They've been together. The Sixers, Bucks, Jazz, Clippers. These are core groups that have been together for at least, 2 years now, for the most part, with some of those teams even longer. The Jazz especially. So now that we're entering and coming to playoff time, who are you giving the advantage to? Are you giving the advantage to teams with just the most pure talent, the Lakers and the Nets? Or are you favoring this year teams with more continuity, teams with more familiarity, in teams like the Jazz, the Clippers, the Sixers, the Bucks? For me, I'm going continuity. In a weird year that was, in a funky year, I'm favoring continuity, familiarity, chemistry over just raw, pure talent. So from the Lakers' perspective, right? Let's take a look at Lakers-wise, what they need to do to win the title. Fair to say, I think it's easy to say, if the Lakers want to repeat as champions here, they need LeBron James and Anthony Davis to basically repeat what they did in the bubble, which was dominate almost every game. Now, with that said, I have a tough time believing that both AD and LeBron can return to their bubble form after not being on the court together for basically 3 months. Right? AD got hurt February 14th. Outside of a game and a half when LeBron returned like a week and a half ago, they haven't been on the court together since. That's 3 months. So not only have they not been on the court together in 3 months, you've had LeBron James, especially now at the second star player to get hurt after Anthony Davis a month later. He is now missed, including last night, after we thought he was going to return against the Rockets. Announced he is not playing. Himself broke the news. He's not going to be suiting up. He has now missed 25 out of the last 27 games the Lakers have played. And with the playoffs less than a week away, he himself has admitted, and it's pretty easy to assume, he's not going to be 100% healthy at any point in the postseason. So now when you look at the rest of the regular season, the Lakers have 2 games left. So LeBron has 2 games max, and I believe they're back-to-back, so that's assuming he even plays in both games. LeBron has a max of 2 games to knock the rust off, get up to speed, to basically get to the level of playing the best basketball he can this season. That's what he does in the playoffs, right? I think it's fair to say LeBron, especially really after the first year in Miami, he has routinely played his best basketball in the postseason without fail year in and year out. It's led to winning titles. It's led to dragging a bad team to the finals. But how are we supposed to believe? How am I supposed to believe? I'll make this selfishly here about myself. If you believe differently, I don't want to speak for you. I'll speak for myself. How am I supposed to believe that in 2 games, after missing 25 out of the last 27, LeBron is going to get up to speed where he is playing typical and classic LeBron James postseason basketball? I can't see it. And last year, right? Last year he averaged 27.6 points per game in the playoffs down there in the bubble. He did so on 56% shooting from the field, which is the 3rd highest of his playoff career for, that's it. No explanation. 56% shooting from the field for the entire postseason, 3rd highest shooting percentage of his career. So how am I supposed to expect that he will get back to that level in just 2 games? We know LeBron, the entire regular season for him is a ramp up to the postseason. He paces himself. He works on his game. His entire goal of the regular season is to get to the point where it's a slow build to where he is playing his best basketball at the end of the year. He does it without fail. He gets off to a slow start. There are questions. Remember, he did it last year. Right before the pause with the COVID happened, LeBron was trying to get himself back into the MVP race. It happens without fail year in and year out. He always plays his best basketball this time of the year. But now he misses that. He doesn't have that opportunity. So not to mention, now you have a banged-up LeBron James, ton of rust, ton of question marks if he can even return to playoff LeBron. So that means the Lakers bench, for the most part, is really going to have to bail LeBron out, bail the Lakers out, more than maybe ever in his career. But when you look at the Lakers, their center position is a total mess. Frank Vogel, to his credit, is trying to figure out the best rotation between Montrezl Harrell and Marc Gasol and Andre Drummond. Still can't figure it out. Barring a miracle these next 2 games, it's going to be a massive question, and it's going to be a process to figure out. The point guard position right now is totally banged up. They finished the Knicks game the other night, and they played the Rockets game last night without really a point guard. They had Taylor Horton Tucker basically running the point, running the offense. The guy's not a point guard. And you have Kyle Kuzma, who did hit the eventual game-winning shot last night, but he's a streaky player to where he'll hit some shots for sure, but his consistency cannot be trusted. So when you look at the Western Conference and you look at the questions that the Lakers have, they have the most talent. But there's injury concerns. There's no continuity. They haven't played together in 3 months, essentially. When you put that up against teams like the Jazz, who have a ton of familiarity with this core group of Joe Ingles and Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell with their head coach Quinn Snyder have been together for a while, who really bonded together in the bubble after, which seems like a fractured relationship between Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell last year with the entire COVID situation, where Gobert didn't take it seriously. Donovan Mitchell he was very upset at Gobert. There was a chance that could have split up, and they came together, they bonded together, and actually fixed that for the best. That is a tight-knit group. And now you see this year, they are blossoming. They are thriving. So look at the Jazz on the same page. The Clippers, to me, last year, massive wake-up call. That embarrassment that they suffered blowing the 3-1 lead to the Nuggets in round 2 in the bubble last year, to me, served as a massive wake-up call where I don't believe the Clippers will fall victim to the same issues that plagued them last year. Last year, it wasn't talent. It wasn't injuries. It was continuity. It was chemistry. PG and Kawhi were kind of on their own island, doing their own thing. The rest of the team was kind of put off by that these guys were so distant. And we saw when push came to shove, in the big-time moments, they crumbled because they didn't have that chemistry. They didn't trust each other. I think that was an important wake-up call, and they will learn chemistry is important this year. I don't think, personally, that same issue of lack of chemistry will come back to bite them again. So that's why I'm believing in the Clippers and the Jazz to dethrone the Lakers, take them down, because I do value their continuity, their chemistry, more than the Lakers right now. When you look at the East, again, personally for me, I have a tough time believing, I can't believe, actually, that a three-headed monster, the most talent in the NBA, with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, I can't truly sit here and say, I believe in those three, despite them playing just 7 games together, despite the fact that they have played 0 games, 0. They haven't played 1 minute together for how this team is currently constructed. Right? They were active in the buyout market. They brought Blake Griffin in. They have not played 1 second with how this roster currently is constructed. The last game the Big Three played together was back on February 13th. So at least the Lakers, despite the fact that they basically had the same amount of time elapsed without playing together because of the injuries to AD and LeBron, at least they have last year to fall back on with those two. There's nothing to fall back on for the Nets. So I have a tough time personally believing in a team can just roll the balls out come postseason without playing together at all and having success. Because the biggest thing in my mind the Nets are missing by not playing together in the regular season is learning how to overcome adversity. Because as we know, the playoffs aren't a cakewalk. There will be some tough moments in the postseason that they're going to have to answer some tough questions. Maybe have a tough shooting night from one of the guys. Pick one of them up. Can they do it? I have no clue. I have no clue how these three are going to react if they go down 0-2 in a series. If they lose a crucial Game 5 and now they're down 3-2 going on the road in Game 6. I'll say this. The leadership between Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving doesn't have me feeling very good that it's going to go over well. These guys, within their careers, routinely have quit or have been unable to step up in the big moments when adverse situations take over. So I don't all of a sudden see that magically fixing itself to where now if you're down 0-2 in a series, if you're down 3-2 in the Eastern Conference Finals or the Eastern Conference Semifinals, I'm not believing that these guys are going to rally together, galvanize themselves, and come back and fight through it. I think they'll fold like a cheap tent. So when you look at the competitors in the East, the Sixers and the Bucks, not only do they have a ton of familiarity, the core groups have been together for a while, they have played together, meaning they have faced hardships in the playoffs before. The Bucks, the last 2 seasons, have had brutal postseason exits. Giannis remembers that. Chris Middleton, Mike Budenholzer. They've been through that. Sixers, same thing. That gut-wrenching Raptors series, Ben Simmons was there. Joel Embiid was there. Last year, just a total mess in the bubble. These guys have at least gone through adverse situations together. They know what it's like. To me, I think that will bring them closer together. I do. So that's why I am favoring entering the postseason. I am favoring teams that have more continuity, more familiarity, more chemistry despite the fact that they don't have more talent. Because as we know in the NBA, that's another thing. Talent wins out in the NBA. There's a reason why the playoffs, for the most part, there's not many upsets. You don't see an 8 seed winning the title. You don't see many 1 seeds going down early. Usually on paper, the best team, for the most part, not every time, for the most part, wins. This is a year I don't think that is the case. Because on paper, you would say the Lakers are a better team than everyone else. The Nets are a better team than everyone else. I don't think those are the teams we'll see in the finals. I am favoring and I am believing continuity and familiarity in a season that has been stop and start, that has been up and down with COVID. I think that is this year more than ever. You need that tight-knit group, that ability to kind of go through the grind together, fight through it, and come out on the other side. I believe that is more valuable in this year's postseason than just having the most talent is. So I'm taking the Clippers, the Jazz, the Bucks, the Sixers over the 2 most talented teams in the Nets and the Lakers. So I'm curious, right? When it comes down to either talent or continuity, skill, familiarity, Lakers, Nets, the field. Who are you taking? What side you on? Who do you think is going to prevail here in the postseason? Love to hear your thoughts. Facebook, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Twitter, WWSRN_radio. At Ryan Hickey Show on Twitter as well. Tweet me right on the live stream on Facebook, right on the live stream on Twitter. Love to hear your thoughts. When we come back for hour number 2, it's been, we'll say interesting so far with Urban Meyer in Jacksonville. Tim Tebow is the latest potential, because it's not official yet, potential decision that Urban Meyer will make that has been, we'll say, questionable. Is it fair now, when you look at the totality of Urban Meyer's tenure in Jacksonville, before he's even coached a down, before he's even coached the team in 1 practice rep, is it fair to already be concerned about Urban Meyer and his success in Jacksonville? We will discuss that next when the Ryan Hickey Show does return on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Welcome back to the Ryan Hickey Show, right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Welcome into the Ryan Hickey Show with you right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, going until 11 a.m. Eastern, so 1 more hour to go here for this Thursday show. As a reminder, coming to you live, as we always are, from the Big Italy Pizzeria Studios, where it's great pizza, hot heroes, and phenomenal dinners. Check them out at Joe's Pizzeria, Bayshore. Check them out in Medford and online at BigItalyPizza.com. So we are back in the New York groove here. Is Urban Meyer, is he in the Jacksonville groove? Or the Jaguars, are they back in the Urban Meyer groove? Because I will be honest, when the Jaguars made the decision to hire Urban Meyer, I was on board. I thought, you know what? That's a great hire. They're going out of the box. To me, Urban Meyer was a winner. I don't view him as a college coach. I view him as a winner. He won at Utah, won at Florida, won at Ohio State. It's more of a CEO role for him anyway, so I thought he could translate to the NFL. He's a competitor. I don't think there was much college stick that we see other coaches who have success in college to try to go to the NFL fail. I thought Urban was, a good fit for the Jaguars with a young roster that, needs molding, that needs to be developed. I thought Urban was the right guy in charge for Jacksonville. Ever since the day that the Jaguars announced the hiring was official, I have still yet to feel as confident as I do in Urban Meyer. Each day, each waning day, each move that is made by the Jaguars and Meyer whittles away at my confidence. It does. So maybe it's a little unfair on May 13th, before he hasn't coached a practice, before he hasn't stepped foot on the NFL sideline. Is it fair to already even discuss whether we should be concerned, and if there is concern, of Urban Meyer and his success in Jacksonville? Because I think there is. I think there truly has to be a discussion already. Because there's a few moves that leave you scratching your head that don't make much sense. The latest example is Tim Tebow. This has been, You talk about a story with legs. This entire week has been, a Tim Tebow hate fest. Now let's look at it. Tebow hasn't played in the regular season since 2012. As we know, he tried to revive his baseball career at the Mets. Thank God that is over. As a Mets fan, that was embarrassing. He obviously was a ESPN college football analyst, so he's done plenty of things outside of football to still be relevant, to be on the national stage. But now there is interest, there is thought, there is intrigue from Urban Meyer that Tim Tebow could return to the football field to play not quarterback, not backup quarterback, tight end. Here's the thing, because it's not even official. They haven't signed him. Urban Meyer, talking on Chris Collinsworth's podcast this week, said he has a decision to make. It's not official. It's not 100% that they will sign Tim Tebow. They've worked him out a few times. Hasn't been signed yet. So it may not happen. This all may be for naught. But even just the thought of entertaining the idea that Tim Tebow could return to the team, get signed to a deal to play a different position, it's head-scratching. Because as we know, he's a very polarizing player. He brings a presence to them that not many players do, especially not many players with his skill set, or really we should say lack thereof. He is going to be the center of attention. There's always going to be a lot of questions. And when you have Trevor Lawrence there, when you're trying to help Trevor Lawrence build confidence for him to be this, be the leader of this team, I don't think Tim Tebow is the guy to bring onto the roster at a different position. I don't think it's a smart move. And you reportedly, from James Palmer at NFL Network, from, I forget the ESPN report, I apologize. ESPN was reporting, I believe it was Jeremy Fowler, reporting that Jaguars coaches, some of them aren't even happy with the interest in Tim Tebow, and they don't understand it. And I'm with them. He's a big distraction, and to me, he is not worth, all the attention that he brings to them is not worth the play in the field, which is, at best, 53rd man on the roster. I think about it. Tim Tebow at tight end, are we really going to be starting him, playing him 50 snaps a game? You're not. He's going to be on the bench. He'll probably maybe play special teams, get into a few offensive snaps, but he's going to be used very, very little. But the attention paid to him is going to be very, very high. So I think that is a questionable at best move to bring Tim Tebow in. But even before Tim Tebow, because it doesn't start there, it doesn't stop there. Before Tim Tebow, I thought the NFL draft was interesting. Now, obviously, look, they made the easiest pick of the entire draft. They took Trevor Lawrence number 1. But later on in the first round, they took Travis Etienne. This is head-scratching for a few reasons. Number one, they don't need a running back. They have James Robinson there. James Robinson, as a rookie last year, ran for 1,000 yards. So not only do you have a cheap young running back who had success last year already on the roster, not only do you draft a running back in the first round, which really is a big no-no now with how running backs are used, it's even a bigger no-no, it's even a bigger blunder, because the guy who ran for 1,000 yards on your roster already just a year ago as a rookie was undrafted. Which should highlight, which should scream to Urban Meyer, running backs don't matter. You don't need a first-round running back to have success because you picked a guy up off the scrap heap who ran for 1,000 yards. So if you want to take a running back, if you wanted someone else with James Robinson, you could have waited till the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 7th, the undrafted free agent pool again to get another running back in here. You didn't have to waste a first-round asset on a running back. Not only waste a first-round asset on a running back in Travis Etienne, then have the gall after the first round in your we'll say, post-round press conference to lay out how you think Etienne is going to be used. Your vision for Etienne in 2021 is to have him be a third down back. You're going to carry the load on first and second down with James Robinson and Carlos Hyde. You're going to have your first round running back draft pick be a third down running back and a scat back, essentially. What? That doesn't make much sense. That was questionable. And before the draft, before Tim Tebow, his first real move that was just puzzling and bizarre and that started kind of getting me worried that this guy doesn't really know what he's doing, was hiring Chris Doyle to be your strength coach. Now, if you remember, Chris Doyle was available to be hired because he was let go at Iowa, where he was their strength coach, was the highest paid strength coach in college football. He was let go because of alleged racial undertones and comments he made towards Iowa players for years. And Iowa pushed him out the door. Now, Urban Meyer, when he made this announcement, claims to have vetted Doyle thoroughly. Claims to have a strong relationship with him and said, you know what? I'm going to get some backlash. I believe this guy is the right guy for the job. Well, what happened? The pushback he received in less than 48 hours after hiring, or really after the announcement of Chris Doyle was made that he was hired, the pushback was so severe from media, from fans, from players in the NFL that Doyle basically was forced to resign. Less than 48 hours later, they almost had a mutiny on their hands. Urban Meyer's first real move as head coach was to hire a guy with alleged racial, who allegedly made racial comments to players at Iowa. And he thought in a predominantly black locker room, that would play over well. That was bizarre. That was puzzling. So when you add those moves up, the decision or thinking Chris Doyle would be a good hire and would go over well with your players, the decision to draft Travis Etienne in the first round to be a third down running back, the flirtation with Tim Tebow because you won a national title with him at Florida 15 years ago. We have seen a habit routinely now pop up with Urban Meyer, and that is his judgment gets clouded, and it's to his detriment. Because we have seen at Florida, at Ohio State, Urban Meyer make terrible judgments on both players and coaches. And the one thing is, if he has a connection with a player or coach, that trumps the red flags that may pop up to where if there was no relationship, hey, this guy has a sketchy background. Hey, this guy, we didn't hear great reviews. Normally, you'd be like, okay, you know what? Good call. We'll move on. We'll go elsewhere. Urban blows through those red flags if he knows someone. It doesn't matter. It's my guy. I will fix him, if you will. I will rehabilitate him. And it hasn't worked. I mean, if you remember to his Ohio State days, part of the reason why he's still not the Ohio State coach right now is he kept Zach Smith, the wide receiver coach, on the Ohio State coaching staff despite knowing horrendous and disgusting domestic violence allegations. I mean, frankly, what you hear too, he wasn't even a good receiver coach, but he kept him on the staff. He basically kept everything hush-hush because of his connection with the late Earl Bruce. Earl Bruce was the grandfather of Zach Smith. That Earl Bruce was a mentor and really the biggest influence on Urban's coaching career. So he felt like he had to do his mentor a favor by keeping Zach Smith around. As we know, that's part of the reason. Keeping him around. Ignoring the red flags was part of the reason why he, quote-unquote, retired from Ohio State at the end of the year. So his judgment routinely gets clouded, and it hurts him, hurts the team, hurts the franchise, and or the school. So seeing the moves Urban Meyer has done in Jacksonville, coupling that with his history at Florida, his history at Ohio State, despite a ton of success there at both schools, the NFL is different. Players have way more power. Teams have way more power. College, you could say it's my way or the highway. Most times, especially with the success Urban has, he will get his way. And we've seen him get his way. But the NFL, as we've seen, doesn't matter what you did in college. It doesn't matter. We don't care how many championships you won at Florida, what your record at Ohio State was. It's about the today. It's about the what have you done for me lately. And if players don't like the move, if other coaches don't like the move, if the organization doesn't like the move, they won't be shy to let you know about it. So Tebow, Etienne, Chris Doyle, there is nothing so far Urban has done outside of drafting Trevor Lawrence, which again isn't even a decision, that inspires confidence. Like honestly, has Urban done anything that has you believing, you know what? Yeah, that guy can have success in Jacksonville. That guy can be a good NFL coach. I thought, again, when he was first hired, he would be more like Pete Carroll. Success at USC, I understand he coached in the NFL before, but success at USC, goes to the Seahawks, comes in, still sort of a college guy, rah-rah atmosphere, but he brings that energy. He was able to turn the Seahawks around, as we know, sort of built up almost a dynasty, had a lot of success, and now has built a consistent winner. I thought Urban could come to Jacksonville and build sort of the same thing that Pete Carroll built in Seattle. But the more I look at it, the more moves he makes, the more questionable decisions, the more personal feelings trump common sense. The more I think he could be a John Gruden. A lot of hype, a lot of excitement. Guy with a history and a track record of success, but comes back in act number 2, doesn't get it. John Gruden, to me, doesn't get it. He is behind in today's NFL. He still is acting like it's 2005. Not that Urban Meyer is stuck in his old ways. He has revolutionized. He has reinvented himself. But he is stuck in the old college ways of my way or the highway. I get what I want, and I will make things right. If this guy is a check or pass, if this guy just basically Urban Meyer saying, trust me. The issue is, sure, win-wise, you can trust him in college. But a lot of the decisions he makes aren't smart and don't work out. So yes, before even a game is played, before even a practice is played, I have concerns and I feel less confident in Urban's success than I did when he was first hired. That confidence is whittling away where I feel it's more and more potentially leading to a dumpster fire, leading to a John Gruden, lot of hype, little substance, rather than a Pete Carroll coming in and taking the Seahawks to the next level. So I'm curious. I give you my reasons why I'm concerned. Are you concerned? Should there be? Is it fair to even be concerned about Urban Meyer at this point? Or should we see how he does in practice? Should we see how he coaches up the team? Should we see how the team plays for him before we start making judgments, giving thoughts, giving opinions about how his tenure will go? So love to hear your thoughts. Facebook, Worldwide Sports Network. Twitter, WWSRN_radio. At Ryan Hickey Show on Twitter as well. We'll get your thoughts, and when we come back, we'll do a few quick hits. Bounce around the world of sports. Russell Westbrook the other night makes history. The Oakland A's, are they on the move? We'll discuss that when the Ryan Hickey Show does return right here. Where else? The Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Welcome back to the Ryan Hickey Show, right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
And welcome back into the Ryan Hickey Show with you right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Getting those commercials down, my apologies. We are back here on a Thursday morning, on a gorgeous Thursday morning. And you know it's time? We've talked a lot of different discussions. We've hit on the playing tournament. We've hit on the NFL schedule, which we'll circle back to in 15 minutes. But it's time to bounce around some other topics that happen in the week of sports so far. We'll do so in a quick segment, if you will. Hit on them in some quick hits. Let's start with history that was made the other night. Russell Westbrook recorded his 182nd career triple-double. Why is that significant? I'm sure, as you heard, he passed Oscar Robertson for the most triple-doubles all time. Now, it's weird and it's funny because Russell Westbrook is a player that, especially too, as a Knicks fan, he was rumored to potentially, when the Rockets were looking to trade Russell Westbrook this past offseason, a destination, a potential landing spot was the Knicks. Personally, I did not want Russ on the Knicks for a few different reasons. I just don't think his style personally is conducive to winning a championship. With all the young players the Knicks have, I'd rather go development than try to bring a big name starring. But it's weird because despite the fact that I personally don't think Russell Westbrook's style can win a title, is conducive to winning a title, despite the fact that obviously, as we know, winning is everything now, where it's championship or bust, championship or bust. How many championships does this guy have? How many doesn't he have? Oh, he doesn't have a ring, so we're going to knock him down. I feel like I found myself respecting Russ more and more as his career has gone on. Because you know what? Like, the more we watch the NBA, this is a guy that truly plays the game the right way. Right? He gives 110% effort no matter who his teammates are, no matter what time of the year it is, no matter what game he's playing, no matter what the record is. This guy just goes all out. He plays every game truly like it's his last. I know that's corny. I kind of cringe even just saying that myself. I get it. But it's true, and there's really no other way to kind of describe how he plays. So he's even not a guy that even chases championships or honestly maybe even wants to chase championships. But if he was getting, or when he was getting traded, he could have demanded to go to the Lakers or the Nets or the Clippers. There were teams that I'm sure would have taken Russell Westbrook that he could have went to and had a better chance of winning the title until he was ultimately traded to the Wizards. With that said, even go to a team that, he's playing a lot better now, but didn't give you much hope, especially early on in the season, he still plays hard. And it's funny because once he passed, he had the record the other night. Obviously, the next day and that night, a lot of people were talking about Russ and his, style and his place in the game. And of course, one of the first things that comes up, without fail, is that he hasn't won a championship. And you know what? The more that's said, the more that's used as a knock on Russell Westbrook, the more, honestly, I respect his game. Like, it's weird. I almost hope, in a sense, that he doesn't win a title, and here's why. To me, his style of play, what he's been able to accomplish in his career, he doesn't need a title to validate that. He doesn't need a championship to all of a sudden elevate him in his place in the game. He is just Russell Westbrook. He is one of a kind. He is a guy that is first team all hustle. Probably no one will ever play the game harder than Russell Westbrook. I feel confident saying that on a consistent basis. So I almost hope in a sense that he doesn't chase the championships just because I love the way he plays. And I respect the hell out of how much effort he gives on a night in and night out basis. And says he doesn't care. Just plays. Doesn't care that he's inefficient. He'll keep on shooting. Doesn't care that, his style honestly really isn't the best to win a title because it is very one man. I will get the rebounds. I'll bring the ball up. I'll make the good pass. I'll put my team in positions to succeed. But it is him doing a lot of the heavy lifting. So I like Russell Westbrook. I salute you for passing Oscar Robertson. Make history. Get to 200. Get to 230. Keep doing your thing. Keep playing the game hard. I respect the hell out of Russell Westbrook. Congratulations on an incredible accomplishment. His place in the game is already secure. You don't need a championship to do that. In baseball, how about the Oakland A's? Could they actually leave Oakland? Now, in case you missed it, and if you didn't, we'll rehash it quickly. Major League Baseball put out a statement the other day giving the Athletics permission to explore stadiums in other markets. Portland, Nashville, Vegas, Charlotte. The reason they're doing that, well, as we've known for feels like 2 decades, almost my entire lifetime, the A's have constantly been trying to build a new stadium somewhere in Oakland. The latest proposal, the latest one, out of many, the latest one is a waterfront stadium at Howard Terminal. And things have been going slow. This was proposed, or there was sketches of it, I believe 2 years ago, last year, when the details came out. But there's really been no progress. There's been no vote, no approval, really at all. So I at least understand what Major League Baseball is doing. They are putting the pressure on the city of Oakland. Hey, don't be playing around, enough, delaying, enough procrastinating. Figure out and basically tell the A's yes or no on a stadium. Because if no, they could leave. I think it's more of a threat than a promise. I think that this is more of a bargaining tool where I don't see the A's leaving Oakland. I really don't. You saw the Warriors move across the bay, which I'm not an Oakland resident, but from what you hear and what you read, it is like them moving to another city. You obviously have the Raiders going to Vegas. You don't want the Athletics leaving Oakland. You don't. And I don't think they will. I do think the stadium will get approved. I think this is just a bargaining chip by the A's and Major League Baseball to get some progress going here. Let's get some shovels in the ground. Let's get some approvals going here. Because man, do they need this stadium in the worst way? I'll be honest. Now, I kind of am irrationally passionate about small things like stadiums and uniforms. Like, bad uniform colors and combos drive me insane. Ugly, like, I'll be honest, I have a mini, I don't want to say vendetta. I look at the A's lesser, to be completely honest with you, because they play in a dump. That stadium they play in, that's renamed every year, is frankly an embarrassment. It is. I'm sorry. You look at the stadium, it looks like you're playing in a 1950s stadium. High school teams have better facilities than the Oakland A's do, and they're in a professional team. I just get so disgusted anytime I see the A's in their stadium. They need one in the worst way. But I do think that, sure, the threat is there. Sure, Major League Baseball is telling the A's, check out Vegas. That's obviously a popular destination, maybe the favorite if they were to move. I think that this is just a bargaining chip. I think the A's will return to Oakland. I don't think that anything will be moving in terms. I do think this latest stadium proposal will be approved. But it's Major League Baseball approving or applying, I should say, some heat to get the decisions going on. And I do kind of want to quickly, finally, at least in terms of quick hitters for this edition, I want to circle back at something we talked about earlier. So we talked about the Lakers and the Nets. For me, I was favoring continuity, familiarity of teams like the Jazz, the Sixers, the Bucks, the Clippers. I think, to me, they're going to prevail and go deeper in the playoffs than teams like the Lakers and the Nets, who have more talent. But specifically to the Lakers, where you look at where they are right now, where they are in 7th place. They had a big win last night. Big win last night over the Rockets. They didn't have AD. They didn't have LeBron. They didn't have Alex Caruso. They still had a ton of injuries holding them back. They still won the game. So now you look at the Lakers and where they are. They're still currently in the 7th seed. They are a game behind both the Mavericks and the Blazers. Lakers have 2 games left. Both the Mavericks and the Blazers have the tiebreaker. So essentially, the Lakers have to go 2-0 these last 2 games. Either the Mavericks or the Blazers have to go 0-2. And that's how the Lakers avoid the play-in tournament. But could you make the argument, the Lakers, their best road to the finals, their best road to another championship is through the play-in? I understand right now, most likely you could play Steph Curry in a 1-game situation, and that is frightening. We've seen Steph Curry basically be unconscious the last 6 weeks or 2 months shooting the ball. He is hitting threes at a record insane pace. So obviously in a 1-game situation, that is scary to go up against Steph Curry. But when you look at it from the opposite side, the positive side, if you will, if the Lakers win, if they stay in the play-in, they beat the Warriors, they secure the 7th seed, most likely that means a matchup with the Suns in the first round of the playoffs. To me, that is a way better matchup for the Lakers going against the Suns than it is if they fall to the 8th seed and play the Jazz, or if they win, avoid the play-in and get the 6th seed, because if you're the 6th now, you are playing most likely the Clippers. That, personally, to me, is a nightmare situation. I understand the Clippers and their postseason struggles. I even get that in round 2, if the Lakers do beat the Suns, they probably will most likely face the Clippers in round 2. But with LeBron now having 2 games after missing 25 out of the last 27 games in the regular season, the Lakers need to play as many games as possible to be able to knock the rust off. Getting an extra game in the play-in, playing the Suns in the first round, to me, is the best matchup possible. So if you play the Lakers, if you avoid the play-in, and you have LeBron basically needing 2 games, and again, I believe it's a back-to-back on Saturday and Sunday to finish the season. So they might even, LeBron might not even play both games. But if he has 2 games max to finish out the season, then you have to play the Clippers in round 1, basically still rusty, still trying to figure things out on the fly. That's not conducive. I'd rather play the Clippers in the second round of the playoffs and at least hopefully get some flow going in the first round. So it's kind of crazy to say. It doesn't really make much sense on the surface, but when you think about it, I think the Lakers' best road to a deep postseason run is in the play-in tournament. Beat the Warriors, get the 7th seed, play the Suns. You saw that they handled the Suns the other night on Sunday night without LeBron James. I think that's a good matchup for them. Anthony Davis can have his way with DeAndre Ayton. Suns aren't a really physical team. The Lakers are physical. They're taller. They're bigger. I think that's a good matchup for the Lakers in round one. Get some confidence back. Get some of your legs and knock the rust off. I think that's a way more enticing matchup than getting the 6 and having to face the Clippers in round number 1. So I get it. You're flirting with danger. You could lose to the Warriors, still get in the playoffs at the 8th seed, beating either the Spurs or the Grizzlies, and then play the Jazz, which that's not really a matchup I would want either if I was the Lakers in round number 1. I think their best shot, honestly, play in tournament, grab the 7, get the Suns in round 1, and hope that you in that series could put everything together where you are playing your best basketball going up against the Clippers in round number 2. I think the Lakers will lose to the Clippers in round 1 if that is the matchup. If it's a 3-6 Clippers-Lakers, I'm taking the Clippers. Maybe I'm a fool buying into Los Angeles after what happened last year. I am buying in. I am. So up to your thoughts on any of those. A's potentially leaving Oakland. Russell Westbrook making history. Is the best path for the Lakers to play in? We'll get your thoughts. And when we come back, in case you missed it to start the show, I want to kind of rehash the NFL schedule release happened last night, right? So now every team, you already knew the opponents, you already knew the home games and the away games, but now you know when they're being played. Now you know when the primetime games are. Who's on Sunday night? Who's on Monday night? How many primetime games does your team have? That's an aspect I want to hit on when we come back here, the primetime games. Because it's, obviously a standalone game. You want to have the best teams. You want to put the teams that people want to watch on primetime the most. Looking at the teams and the number of primetime games each team has, there are 3 teams in my mind that are on primetime too much. 3 teams in my mind that aren't on primetime enough. We'll tell you those 3 or those 6 teams, who they are, and the reasons why when the Ryan Hickey Show returns right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Welcome back to the Ryan Hickey Show, right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
If you are what you say you are, a superstar.
That is right. We are talking superstars here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It is the Ryan Hickey Show with you until 11 a.m. Eastern. Few more minutes here on this Thursday morning. But instead of superstar players, what about superstar teams? Right, the NFL schedule release happened last night, so now we know the schedule for all 32 teams in all 17 games for this season. Don't forget the extra game this year added on. So obviously now you know when your team is playing which opponent when. But also, now we know all the primetime games. You know who's playing on Thanksgiving, who's playing on Christmas this year, now that it's a Saturday. You have the Thursday night, the Sunday night, the Monday night schedule all released as well. So when it comes to primetime games, I always like to look at the number of games each team gets, right? The max allotment is 5. So if a team can't be on primetime Thursday, Monday, or Sunday night more than 5 times in a season. So I always kind of like to look at that to see, all right, which teams was the NFL trying to push and really trying to get out there, and which teams aren't maybe getting the love that they deserve. So looking at the number of primetime games for each team, to me, there are 3 teams featured way too much on primetime, and 3 teams that haven't gotten enough love. To me, that deserve to be on the big stage more than they are this year. So start with the teams that are featured too much, right? People love negativity, so we'll start with the negativity. We'll finish the show positive. 3 teams that are featured too much in my mind. The Minnesota Vikings have 4 primetime games. Why? Like, honestly, if you are a Vikings fan even, I'd love to hear your answer as to why. Kirk Cousins? Seeing him in primetime? We serious? He never plays well. To me, I mean, I think I'm being fair here by saying that they're a borderline playoff team at best. I like Justin Jefferson. They have, a great running back in Dalvin Cook. What is attracting the national audience to watch the Vikings 4 times on primetime? I'm not really seeing it. So that's a team that, man, I mean, outside of a Thursday night game, maybe you want to get crazy on a Monday night game with a Vikings-Bears or a Vikings-Packers game, okay. 4 primetime games we have to watch this year of Kirk Cousins manning the ship. for a team that's going to be fighting for, at best, second place in the NFC North, assuming Aaron Rodgers doesn't get traded. Not doing it for me. I'm sorry. So the Vikings at 4 primetime games, way too much. Their NFC North counterparts, the Bears, also have 4 games. Now, again, I will say this. This is also contingent 2 things. One, when Justin Fields plays, and also how he plays. Obviously, we won't know that answer until it's too late, until the games are already being played. But the Bears have 2 primetime games within the first 9 weeks of the year. Now, personally, I think, and I do think it will happen. I think it should happen. I think it will happen. Justin Fields starts week 1. I think when you get these guys in training camp and you see Fields, I think he will outplay Andy Dalton. If that's not the case, or if it is the case, but Matt Nagy still wants to play Andy Dalton anyway, we're going to watch 1, potentially 2 Andy Dalton primetime games. Let's not forget, this Bears offense last year, is Andy Dalton that much of an upgrade over Nick Foles and Mitch Trubisky? Marginally, maybe. But let's not forget, last year, that offense was pitiful. It was brutal to watch. Usually watching NFL games are a joy, right? It's sports, it's the NFL. We love the NFL. We want as many games to watch as possible. I will be honest, I don't know about you. For me, I felt watching Bears games, especially on prime time, was a chore. It wasn't enjoyable. They were terrible offensively. They didn't give you any inspiration. There was no excitement there. It was very vanilla. And there was just nothing to really get you jacked up watching the Bears. And they were on primetime a ton last year. So if it is Andy Dalton for the first half of the year, and you have 2 primetime games with Andy Dalton, yuck. Because let's not forget, that team around him, the offensive line stunk. The running game wasn't great. Like David Montgomery, but really the offensive line didn't allow the running game to have success. Nick Foles couldn't figure out the Matt Nagy system. Mitch Trubisky just stinks. I like Allen Robinson. Behind him, So we could see a repeat of the 2020 offense in 2021 if Andy Dalton's under center, which I don't think anyone wants to see. No one is clamoring to watch the Bears more. And hopefully if Justin Fields plays, if he can hit the ground running, okay, there is some excitement. There is some reason to watch. If he struggles, again, the Bears are going to be a tough watch. They're going to be a chore. So to me, I would have played it safe. I would have given the Bears less games, kind of make sure that Justin Fields not is the guy, because I like Justin Fields. I think he will be good. But, maybe have him go through some of the growing pains now in a lot of these 1 o'clock games and maybe give the Bears more primetime games in 2022. So 4 to me is too much. Same thing with the Vikings. They also have 4. The Steelers have 5 primetime games. The Pittsburgh Steelers will be on our televisions a lot this fall, and I am not excited about it. I understand they are, a model franchise. They are, one of the most nationally popular franchises. People watch Steelers games because it's the Steelers. But if you take the name away, if you just look at the team, and that's personally what I kind of look at, I don't really care about the brand. I want to see which teams are exciting, which teams do I want to watch as a football fan. The Steelers in 2021 are not one of those teams. They are not a team I am excited to look at. They're not a team that I am clamoring to be watching, focusing on more red zone or watching back on NFL Game Pass and rewatching some of their games. Hell no. Big Ben is hanging on by a thread. The offensive line stunk last year, still stinks this year. Najee Harris, to me, is not going to all of a sudden open up this run game where they were dead last in 2020. I think they'll be close to the bottom again, so we're going to see Big Ben throwing the ball 35, 40, 45, 50 times a game again. And then we get to see Chase Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster, Deontay Johnson drop more passes again. That's not exciting. To me, how I view the Steelers in 2021, I look at the last 6 games of the 2020 season. Really starting with that Ravens game right after Thanksgiving, a week later, because of COVID, the game got pushed back so far. They won that game, but it was ugly. And honestly, offensively, they never recovered. They played some ugly football. They really struggled to move the ball and put points on the board. How they finished the last 6 weeks of the season, to me, is what I expect for most of 2021. If that is the case, if I am right, my goodness, our eyes are going to be bleeding. It is going to be a tough watch. And that's going to be good for nobody. So the Steelers having 5 5 primetime games. Vikings 4, Bears 4. To me, 3 teams, too much. Too much primetime, too much suffering for us. When we're looking forward to Sunday night, as Carrie Under would say, or we're looking forward to the Monday night game, and it's a standalone game. Those are, something I'm not looking forward to whenever those games do roll around. On the flip side, how about we talk about positive? Teams that, to me, didn't get enough primetime games. That should be featured more on Sunday and Monday night. The Browns, 3. The Browns at 3. To me, ridiculous. They're one of the most well-rounded, balanced, and most intriguing teams, to me, heading to 2021. They took a nice step under Kevin Stefanski in year number 1. Look what happens when you have a competent head coach at the helm of the Browns. How good this team could be. Winning a playoff game, going to Pittsburgh, beating the Steelers the way they did. I think now, for the first time in Baker Mayfield's career, for the first time really for this Browns team as a whole, they have a head coach, they have the the offense, they have continuity carrying over from one season to the next. It's not Hugh Jackson. It's not Freddie Kitchens. There's not turmoil in the front office. They have stability. With Angie Berry as general manager, with Kevin Stefanski as head coach, they have stability for the first time in a long time. I think that will benefit the Browns even more in 2021 than they did in 2020. So I am very excited to see, and I think they will take a big step. I think Baker Mayfield will take another leap in year number 2 under Kevin Stefanski. I am very excited to see this Browns team. The only excuse, if you're the NFL, you can make is that they wanted to leave themselves room to where they can flex more Browns games in Sunday night and Monday night towards the end of the year. Because remember, the last month, the NFL can flex more games to where if you have a 4:25 or a 1 o'clock game, let's say in December, you can move that to Sunday night. So because the max is 5, maybe you want to give yourself 1 or 2 flex options for the Browns later on in the year. But this is a team that, to me, better receive the max. 5 games. You better be flexing some of these Browns games because, to me, they're going to be very good. I am, one of the most well-rounded teams. I think they will push the Bills to be the second best team in the AFC. I am very excited, very interested to see how they play. To me, that's a team I would love to watch more often on some of these primetime standalone nights. Chargers. To me, the Chargers are a fun, intriguing, exciting team. Like, if this was the NBA, they would be number 1 in terms of league pass. Where if you have, obviously they won't be maybe on primetime Twitch, but they are one of those league pass teams that are fun, that are exciting, that any game you almost can't miss because of the youth that they have. To me, I would count the Chargers in that, and I would put the Chargers in primetime more. Maybe I'm inflating how good I think the Chargers could be, and maybe the step that Justin Herbert could take in year 2, maybe it's not as great as I think. But to me, this team is progressing not only in the right direction. They have a lot of talent on this team. Like I said, Justin Herbert won the Rookie of the Year last year. I think he can take another step in year number 2. The offensive line, the biggest weakness, at least on the offensive side of the ball, has improved. They signed Corey Lindsey. They drafted Rashawn Slater. You still have Keenan Allen. You still have Mike Williams. You still have Austin Eckler. You got Joey Bosa, stud on the defensive side. You got Derwin James returning to the lineup this year. And you got a great defensive-minded head coach, in Brandon Staley as your new head coach. This has the makings for the Chargers to be a very fun, exciting team in 2021. I get they don't have many fans, if any fans. I get nationally there's the Chargers brand is not looked upon well. I would, if I was making the schedule, make a lot of these primetime games about talent, about excitement, about how good a team could be in 2021. For me, I would give the Chargers an extra primetime game or 2. I think they're going to be a fun, exciting team. I think they will be a team people want to watch. That's why I would give them more. To me, they didn't get enough at 3. Another team similar to the Chargers, I think they're building in the right direction, is the Dolphins. Dolphins have just 2 primetime games. Now, I'm intrigued for the Dolphins in 2 reasons. One, I like the way that they're building the team under Brian Flores. This team didn't have a lot of talent last year. They weren't really that good. They still won 10 games and almost made the playoffs. So I think they'll be better in 2021. I think Brian Flores, again, continues to build this tremendous culture that he has in Miami. I think it will continue to develop, continue to succeed. I do think the Dolphins will make the playoffs this year. And I'm very excited to see how Tua progresses in year number 2. Like, to me, that's a big national storyline. How does he develop? Can he take the next step? Can he show you he can be the guy in Miami? Because let's not forget, before the Dolphins traded out of that number 3 pick, before they made that trade with the Eagles, or I'm sorry, with the 49ers, and then with the Eagles, there was some thought, there was some discussion of, hey, at 3, could the Dolphins take a quarterback? Should they take a quarterback? Basically, punt on Tua, start over. And even at 6, there was some question. I like the fact that the Dolphins backed Tua. I like the fact that they stuck with him, got him Jalen Waddle, signed Will Fuller. I think he's healthy and stay off the drugs. That would be 2 weapons to open up this offense that didn't have really any playmakers at all on offense last year. So I think this is a team that's trending in the right direction. I think this is going to be a fun team to watch, an intriguing team to watch, and that's who I would put on these primetime games. Intriguing, fun, exciting teams. Not plotting, boring, ugly teams to watch like the Bears, the Vikings, and the Steelers. Youth, excitement, pizzazz, young quarterbacks, entertaining storylines. To me, that's what the Browns, Chargers, and Dolphins bring, which is why I would give them all more primetime games. To me, I don't think they got enough. I think when you look at teams like the Steelers, the Vikings, and the Bears, they got too much. They got too much. So that's my thoughts. If you have any before we get out of here, again, Ryan Hickey Show on Twitter. WWSRN_radio, also on Twitter if you want to tweet the network handle or comment on Facebook, Worldwide Sports right now. Before we get out of here, in a few minutes, you want to get any last thoughts, and we'll get them before we do bounce out of here and get you set for the weekend. I do, though, want to make sure, in case you are unaware, in case you forgot, we are all over the digital map right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. So make sure you're liking us on Facebook, Worldwide Sports Radio Network, is where you can find the page. Following us on Twitter, WWSRN_radio. Subscribe to us on YouTube, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Download the app. Simple, easy. Everything is in one easy location. Worldwide Sports Network if you have an Android. WWSRN is where you can look up in the App Store if you have an iPhone. Nice and simple. All the articles that are written, all the shows that are live, all the clips that are posted by our great producer, Speedy PD. Everything can be found in one area. It is the app. WWSRN, again, for iPhone, if you have an iPhone, and Android, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. So always be subscribing. Listen, we have a ton of great shows here that are way better than the one you're listening to right now. The Sports Loudmouths, the Sports Lords. We have tremendous WWE shows. We have tremendous gambling shows. We have tremendous fantasy football shows. We have content Monday through Sunday, mornings, afternoons, nights, late nights. All right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Always here for you. So make sure you're liking us on Facebook, following us on Twitter, subscribing on YouTube, downloading the app. So that way, you are always in tune, always aware of what's going on right here with the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. So that will do it for this edition of the Ryan Hickey Show with you right here. We appreciate everyone who tuned in. Thanks so much for making us a part of your Thursday morning. As we head towards the weekend, have a great, a tremendous, a fun weekend. Enjoy the Preakness Stakes. Hopefully make some money. We'll talk to you on Monday as we get ready for the NBA playoffs. The NBA play-in tournament. We'll get you ready for that on Monday. Have a great weekend. Stay safe, stay sane, and we'll talk to you on Monday. Of course. Where else? Right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.